Hello, welcome to GRVO TV, G's Reviews, Views and Opinions. I'm going to do a review on, and I've done a bit of a review already on this in the What's in My Camera Bag 2015 update where I introduced this lens, and I have reviewed a test sample before, and you'll know I absolutely loved this lens, and I've decided to pull the trigger on it and buy one, but got myself a really good deal. I've got the lens with the Olympus metal lens hood, which is a fortune on its own, and I paid £450 for it. So I think it's about £800 new, so almost half price. And I wouldn't have bought it for the full price, I have to say, but now I've got it and I've been using it for a little while. I think it is worth the money, but I just didn't have the money, so it wasn't an option. But for that sort of price, I think it is worth the 450 quid that I've paid. And I will state straight off the bat, it's not just the sharpest, it's not just the fastest, it's not just it's all of those things. It's the best, it's the fastest. The autofocus on these micro four thirds cameras is super sharp, super quiet. Sharpness is ridiculous on it across the frame, even at 1.8. You could use this at 1.8 all day if you want a really super sharp image. By the time you get to f4, it's ridiculously sharp. It's just great. You do get a little bit of chromatic aberrations, purple fringing when you're shooting at 1.8 and you've got high contrast areas, but it's not horrendous, and the camera takes care of a lot of those issues. But there is a little bit in there that you can get and you can look for, but it's more difficult to find, and sometimes it's there, but you can only see it if you zoom in 1:1 on the screen, and it'd be easily removed. It's nowhere near as bad as my old Nikon 85-1.8D, which was virtually unusable in certain circumstances at f1.8. This, you can use it all day long, no problem. It's an unusual range, 75mm, so that's an equivalent of 150mm 1.8 lens. Now, as far as I know, that doesn't exist. I think I've heard of a 200 f 2.8, may even be a 200 f2, I don't know, but 150mm 1.8, you think, oh, how useful is that? Well, it's more useful than you think. I mean, for portraits, it's fantastic. You get a bit of distance between you and your subject, which is nice. Beautiful blurred background. The benefit, which I think people slag off micro four thirds because it's difficult to achieve that shallow depth of field, but that can work in your favour, because if you're working with a full frame equivalent and you want a bit more depth of field, you might have to stop down to f5.6, f8 or whatever, so you're losing the light that you're gathering, so your shutter speed is going to go down. Whereas with this, because there's a little bit more leeway in the depth of field, I can shoot at f2, perhaps get the same depth of field as f4 on a full frame, so I've got more light coming in, so I've got a faster shutter speed for the same amount of depth of field. Because what I found with full frame, especially when you're shooting at 1.8, was the depth of field was almost too narrow, and I quite often, when I was using my 70 to 200, I'd shoot that at f4 because it gave me that little bit more leeway. Whereas I don't have to worry with these, and so I'm shooting at higher shutter speeds. I'm definitely getting more of my images in focus. I mean, I just took this to the zoo the other day, and I've had to delete so many pictures that are in focus because it was just performing so well. If you want razor thin shallow depth of field, you can get it. There's no problem at all. It's easily possible, and the only real downside is when you start pushing your ISO on these micro four thirds cameras, you can start to lose a bit of your detail, and the images can go a little bit soft. But we're talking, once you get beyond 1600 ISO, which, to be honest, it's not bad. It's bad compared to some cameras like the A7S or things like that. But then that thing only shoots at like one frame a second or something ridiculous. But anyway, I digress. The lens. I'm just going to compare it here to the 35-100 2.8 Panasonic. Weight wise, it's lighter than that, definitely, but there's not an awful lot in it. It's a heavy chunk of metal, but it's still not heavy compared to full frame. It's it's not a problem putting it in that bag with all my other lenses and carrying it around all day. Size wise, obviously it's a bit smaller. just going to pull it. Generally this is going to go on my GX7 because then it will be stabilised as well, whereas on the GH4 it's not stabilised, but not a major problem as long as you remember to shoot this at sort of 1/200th of a second and above, you'll be fine. But looks okay on there, so I'd prefer the black one, but this one came up and it was a good price, so I just went for it. It really suits the GH4 quite nicely actually, and as I say, the autofocus is just going to focus. Let's focus on yeah, that there. Go for that on the eyes. It's just bang, bang, bang. It's lovely. It's not the autofocus on this lens, and it's not super snappy, but it just goes woof, woof. And in use, you know, practically in use when you're not going from far to close. When you're taking pictures of like a moving subject or whatever, it's just bang, bang, bang. It is fantastic. I absolutely love it. Build quality, as with, I've said this before, I'll say it briefly again, all Olympus lenses, in my opinion, should be weather sealed, especially when you're paying this sort of money, but they're not. I mean, they can weather seal a bloody kit lens nowadays. So why these lenses aren't, I don't know. They're all metal construction. They're spending a hell of a lot of money on them anyway. Why not make them weather sealed? That's the only real downside, but at the end of the day, it's not a massive problem for me particularly. You know, I wouldn't worry about getting it caught in a little shower, got a little bit of water on it. It wouldn't bother me. So I would happily use it. If it got a little bit damp, if it's a problem, you just get yourself a Ziploc bag, tie it around the front, and you know, it's not a difficult problem to overcome, should we say. But that's the only gripe about it. So the autofocus is fast, it's silent, it's great in video, and the images, as you'll see, I'll put some images up. Some of these images are cropped because obviously I was limited with 150mm. So what I did was use the lens and cropped just to see how I could get away, you know, how much cropping I can get away with. And I think, you know, you'll be quite impressed by the results. The other thing is, if you want to see high res images rather than the ones on YouTube, you can go onto my Flickr account, just search for GRVO TV on Flickr, you'll find me on there, and there are full res JPEGs on there. All of the pictures that I've taken with this so far are JPEGs straight out of the camera, with the only adjustments being, I think there's one picture that I put a vignette on, and cropping. There's no sharpening, there's no extra. All I have is the camera set up to vivid with +1 sharpening and +1 contrast. That's just how I have it, and it seems to work okay. If anything, it's a bit too sharp with this lens, but it works fine for all the other lenses. So I just left it at that, to be honest. So, and majority are shot at f1.8, and there's a couple shot at f4 as well. So yeah, enjoy these images, and so this has been GRVO TV with my quick review on the Olympus 75mm 1.8 ED MSC. Cheers, see you soon.